the AFL High Performance Podcast. My name is Jack McLean. I'm your host, and today I'm lucky enough to have Spencer Goggin as our guest. We'll be discussing speed programming, both from the gym and on field, and then ultimately finishing with transfer as well into game speed. So, footballers tuning in live, strength and conditioning coaches, physiotherapists working in the rehab space, feel free to send through questions, and no doubt we'll get some time later on. But welcome, Spencer. Thanks for jumping on, mate. Really looking forward to our chat.
Jack, thanks for having me, mate. Pleasure to be on here.
And we discussed off air, mate. Obviously, you've been on a few of these podcasts before, so no doubt most of the listeners tuning in, certainly in the industry, will be well aware of your background. But for those tuning in, maybe parents of athletes or athletes themselves or FMCs new to the industry, mate. Where did it all start for you? Where do your passion sort of start with high performance sport, and then take us through your different work experiences along your journey so far?
Perfect. All right, so I'm at the New South Wales Institute of Sport at the moment. So if you hear me refer to NSWIS at any point during this conversation, that's what I'm referring to. Prior to that, I was with the Western Force as their lead strength and conditioning coach, working with another guest of yours, Anthony Katrupi, there for a little while. Prior to that, was in the UK at a big boys' school, Magdalen College School, for a while. Worked as a PE teacher, then kind of progressed to their head of strength and conditioning before making the jump overseas to come and work at the Western Force prior to their removal from Super Rugby, and then go back there once they were reinstated. So I had a little sabbatical in between when they were playing Global Rapid Rugby, I think it was back then.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Anthony. Who else have been, and how has Anthony shaped your philosophy? But yeah, some strong influences of
Yeah.
I guess how you go about your craft.
I've been really privileged to have some really exceptional coaches influence and shape my career. Charlie Higgins was the head of performance at the Western Force when I got there in 2016, and he's been a real mentor and role model for me for my whole career. So he's my go-to sounding board for anything to do with life or coaching. And then more recently at NSWIS, Simon Harries is there, and his technical skill has helped shape my hard skills as an S&C coach, and being really, really strong there. A guy called Ross Pinder, who I'm not sure if anyone will have heard of, but he's the learning and design lead for the AIS, and he has been great to lean into outside of high performance coaching, like strength conditioning coaching, as a sounding board for learning and session design and constraints-based practice, because that's his PhD. That's what systems thinking and representative design. So, you want to find out more about how to design good learning environments, you go to the source or the root of information, and that was Ross. And we've been working together now for 18 months or so, just checking in once a month. And yeah, he helps, did you say, like, come away from the chaotic nature of where you are,
Mm-hmm.
reflect and ask good questions, and then you can go back into your bubble with a clearer insight into what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great.
Yeah,
The troops
yeah.
was really influential back at the force and getting me started in my interest in speed and agility, really seeing how he had worked with the Wallabies and with the names just escaped me. He was with Japan for a while, was with the Wallabies for a long time. But Dean Benton, and there's
John Pryor.
John Pryor, that's the name, perfect. Yeah, yeah. So seeing troops bring some of their principles into the force kind of kickstarted that passion for speed coaching, and I've tried to make it my own since then.
Fantastic. Yeah, leading into Ross's work, what's his background? Is he strength and conditioning teacher?
Oh, Ross is an academic from the UK, and did a lot of work with para table tennis. So the para
Right.
space is really interesting for constraints-based practice, because there's a whole set of constraints that you can't change and manipulate, right? The needs of the athlete and the level of categorization for that athlete. And I'm not sure if I've used the right phrasing there, so pardon me if I've, got that wrong, but his background there combined with his academic interest has presented or put together this really unique set of experiences that can tap into the coaching side of it, but also the academic side of it, and get this really unique blend that means that you can connect with a coach, and what means I can have a conversation with him about what my job looks like day to day,
Mm.
not just about evidence-based practice and research and the heavy stuff. It's like, how does this work for you on the gym floor or when you're talking to an athlete?
And what are some things you've noticed since bringing that practice in over the last sort of year and a half with your athletes? Where's that
Yeah,
made the biggest impact?
so you asked me, there's a question in the run sheet, which was some of the biggest challenges that I've had as a coach, and I would be a coach 5 years ago that would be trying to go fast but go alone.
Mm.
But now I'm trying to go a bit slower and go together. So Ross's
Mm-hmm.
influence there has been, how can you ask better questions? How can you take more time to understand not just the needs of the athlete in front of you, but who they are? What experiences do they bring to the table? Because that's the point of difference when it comes to delivering as a coach. And I think it's something that we can all become a little bit better at. It's everyone talks about the importance of questions, but you're not trying to be their friend, right? You don't necessarily want to know what they did at the weekend. It's asking those good, insightful questions that build a relationship of trust and can showcase your expertise at the right time. So that's where Ross has really helped me with my thinking as a coach.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's awesome. And no doubt we'll refer back to some of his work, mate, and how that's influenced, I guess, the art
Yeah.
of coaching and communication. Yeah, you mentioned challenges. I guess that's a good segue. We'll start with highlights and then flow into challenges. Or moments that spring front of mind that you're most proud of so far in your career.
Yeah, there's one that's super recent actually. I had been working with Molly Picklum for the last year, and she became the world champion this year. She'd finished fifth a couple of times and managed to string together a really consistent run of performances, building into a final series that meant that she could take out the top spot this year. And that's where everything I've just discussed with you about questions with Ross and trying to figure out what her needs are as an athlete on the world tour. I grew up in Oxford or the Cotswolds. That's nowhere near the ocean. I'm not a surfer, so
Mm.
I can't start to showcase any expertise and insight until I have as clear a picture as I can possibly get without being there with her, of what her life might look like on the road, and then trying to establish what might be the smallest change that we can make that's going to have the biggest impact. And that theme word for the year was consistency. So it was really nice to hear that come up in the commentary about just how consistent she's been in the water. And I really feel like that's something that we try to develop with her a life away from surfing as well, with her training and her recovery and her sleep and things like that. So watching Molly evolve as this high performance professional athlete, professional surfer that ended up taking out the world championship has been a real highlight for me.
Sounds like it's I can't remember who I was talking to, but yeah, in the space of surfing, it's made massive growth in that space, the lifestyle side of things in the profession over the last decade. Is that athletes talk about consistency a fair bit? Was that the Achilles heel of the consistency in performance? Was it the day to day?
Yeah, I think there's action sport athletes because I work with winter sports as well. So think park and pipe, big air. I think they've probably got the hangover, and that's no pun intended, of that 90s action sport athlete that would go and party really hard and then turn up and do these, massive turns or crazy tricks in the air. But the world of action sports has evolved now where the tour is long. Molly was on the road for 9 to 10 months, 12 countries, 3 weeks in each location. And there's also a lot of money to be made. So if you can live your life as a professional athlete and then the sport that you're involved in is surfing. So that means thinking strategically and doing all the other things that we all know are important, then your chances of having a long career are increased. And I think there's a want for athletes in that space now to live that life, to get away from
Mm.
this identity that's perhaps been passed over them. So I think, yeah, Molly, there's a lot of people out there doing great things in that space already, and the athletes are already thinking and behaving like that. It's just promoting that so that the next generation see that that's the way that you need to live and behave if you want to become a successful surfer on the world tour. There's other ways to make money in surfing, which can perhaps sit more closely aligned with previous beliefs, but if that's the way you want to go, then this is the way that we think you should go and live your life, or we can help you find a way that suits you is probably a better way to put that.
And what age are the athletes these days starting to think, okay, I think
Oh man,
surfing's going to be full time for me?
they are so young. I saw a bit of footage last night from a 14-year-old who's just qualified for the next tier down from the World Tour.
Yeah,
So
right.
athletes out there that are young, like can't even get a gym membership, not allowed to have social media technically, but they're good enough to push for not world tour spots, but the competition below.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I reckon anywhere between 17 and 25 is pretty good to make that first impression. And
Yep.
if you don't make that statement within that time span, it's not the pool of money and contracts and stuff isn't big. So if you're not a sponsored surfer on the world tour being successful, it's really hard to stay on there. Again, this is limited experience. I've only been in the sport a year, so I could be completely contradicting myself in 12 months' time. But my understanding right now is that if you're not winning events or at least finishing inside the top five pretty frequently, then life can be pretty tricky as a pro surfer.
And from an NSWIS point of view, like how many sort of sponsorships would be for surfers,
Yeah,
each year?
NSWIS is really unique. We offer scholarships to these athletes, and depending on your level of categorization, so without getting too technical, if you are Molly Picklum, you're categorized as podium because you have a chance to go and win a gold medal. So your level of
Mhm.
support is slightly different to someone that might be a talented 14-year-old, which would be categorized as developing. But my role in that is to support everyone on that list. So if you're the 14-year-old that lives in Gerringong and you need some, just general physical development, general strength training, that kind of work, that's what we'll do. If you're Molly Picklum and you need a really individualized, tailored program that suits being on the road for 9 months of the year, then that's what we'll do and everything in between. So there's a whole team there. There's like physio support, well-being and engagement, all the other parts of becoming a professional athlete that you need to tick off there. There's a whole team there that wraps around the athlete and gives them what they need.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great resource, obviously for the developing athletes, but also world class. Challenges, mate. What would have been obviously hop in sport challenges probably come every day, mate. But what would have been the I guess where have you learned the most, or what have been the
Yeah.
biggest growth sort of experiences?
Yeah, I like to I don't mind sharing a bit of story here. Like I used to be quite a hot-headed coach. I think I tried to become a coach that I thought I should be rather than the coach that I knew I could be. If that doesn't sound too esoteric or anything, you'd see a lot of center of attention type coaches that are heavy on the whistle and yelling and trying to command space and attention. And that just didn't really fit for me. That wasn't my way of coaching. And I think some time away from professional sport to go and figure out a bit more about what I wanted to do in my career and then go back in. I just thought this is the way that I'm going to be as a coach, and the jobs that come up for me will be the best fit for where I am and how I want to deliver. So I said before about going fast, going alone, and then going slower and going together. It's that connecting more with like being patient, asking better questions, taking your time with things, and it's probably a good fit for where I'm at right now. And I'll have to evolve my practice if going back to like your role with para, time is of the essence. If you don't have the answers to questions today, yesterday,
Mm.
then it might look a little different. So yeah, it's probably going to evolve my practice again if I do ever go back to professional sport, but I'm not in any rush to right now. I'm loving what I'm doing with surfing. So that's probably the biggest challenge for me was learning more about how I want to do my job rather than trying to do it how other people thought I should do my job.
Yeah. And that before we get right into the topic of speed, on that, what is the current cycles at the moment with your surfers? Is that is Olympics on the cards? The
Yeah,
surfing that's come
yeah,
in, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah, yep.
yeah. So we've had Owen Wright win a bronze at Tokyo, and then I think Jack Robinson got a silver in Paris, but they did it in Tahiti. So it's
Yep.
been two cycles. This will be the third one in LA. So it's still a very new sport, the Olympics. But with Brisbane coming up as well, it's
Yeah.
an opportunity for Australia to collect a big haul of medals at the domestic event, because local wave knowledge is so important in the sport. So already we're kind of forecasting what it might take to win gold in trestles, and
Yeah, right.
trying to steer people towards certain types of events or breaks to get experience doing certain types of maneuvers that we think will take out a gold medal in 2028. So yeah.
How much? Obviously, it'd probably be periodized, but generally speaking, how much time are they spending in the water and compared to land training for a surfer
Yeah,
during the week?
it's and this is something I've had to learn with surfing, right? It depends, because if it's so reactive to the weather, in the morning it could be amazing, perfect conditions,
Right.
so surf for 5 hours, and then the afternoon the forecast changes and they come in, and that's when you might be able to do some dry land work. But it's tricky because it is so different to team sports, for example, where everyone arrives at 8 o'clock, everyone's on field from 9 till 10:30, and then they're in the gym at 1 o'clock, and everyone
Mm.
runs to the same cadence. Whereas writing a great program for a surfer means you have to be able to they have to be able to wake up in the morning, look at the water and go, that's no good. I'm going to do gym. I'm going to do gym right now in my room, like at the house I'm staying at in Hawaii. Can't
Mm.
travel anywhere because if I go too far, the forecast says the wind might drop in 2 hours. So now I've got to be back for that to be ready to go.
Yeah, right.
So you're trying to marry up all the constraints of the environment and the needs of the athlete and where they're at versus what you're trying to change with their physical capacities or abilities, and then somewhere in the middle is a great program.
Yeah. So if the surf's on, that's number one. You got to
That's
get out in
it.
the
Yeah,
water.
if it's
Yeah, yeah.
if it's
Makes
on for
sense.
5 days in a row, they're
Yeah.
out. You don't see them, and it's like, but the waves are there, so they're going to go surfing because
Yep.
yeah, just the time in the water is the biggest point of difference when it comes
Of
down to
course.
crunch time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. That's fascinating. That's
Yeah.
yeah, something that we haven't talked about on the show. So I thought dive into it a little bit there, mate. Appreciate. Yeah, I know it's not something that we sort of put on the run sheet, but
Oh,
yeah,
good. Happy to
clearly
chat
it's
about
something
it.
passionate about it. Yeah. I guess speed development, more broadly for what would be the big rocks, I guess, if a rugby athlete in the off seasons come to see, and they've got 7 weeks or 6 weeks, and they want to see you twice a week. How do you sort of put a program in place if their goals are on working on their first 3 steps and their top end speed?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll use that as a good starting point for the example as well, right? So the time of year for most team sports is the off season, and I guess I've spoken a lot about surfing there, but speed development and field movement skills coaching is something I'm really passionate about as a coach, and would probably consider one of my areas of expertise. Although I don't think I'm an expert in anything, but we'll jump back to the example. If we're going at this time of year, we're going to look to do as much as we can to make sure that athlete's technique is robust enough to tolerate the increase in run demands that are going to arrive during pre-season. So I'm not expecting footy players or AFL athletes to move like sprinters. We just need to tick off on great rib pelvis alignment, not spending too long on the ground, and making sure that ground contact is of good or high quality, and then trying to bring them into some more front side dominant mechanics, or I use hurdles and wickets a lot. I think they're great bang for buck. So we'd go straight into some constrained wickets and try and just remodel some patterns there. The first 3 steps in acceleration work, sleds. I'd go to sleds straight away and just do sled marching, and again looking at that quality of ground contact. Probably do some more diagnostic work away from the field around ankle isometrics and knee iso push work to see whether they've actually got what they need to be able to accelerate well. But I'm really interested in some of James Wild's work around profiling acceleration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's something that if given the opportunity to work with a team or profile athletes, that's something I think would be really interesting to try and individualize how they accelerate to reduce their risk of hamstring or calf injury. Because I can't remember I'm not a coach that can encyclopedia of knowledge and spit out the references and things like that. But I know he's got his quadrant system that there's a couple of sections there that are 2.5 times more likely to get a calf or a hamstring injury. So if you can bring some of those athletes closer to the center, then I think you've done a pretty good job. So those 2 things would be what I start with an athlete in the off season.
And with the sleds, that's the harness, putting weight plates on the sled, or the prowler with the sled?
Yeah, I'd go
Push.
prowler to start. I'd prowler to
Yeah.
start, and just reduce some of that postural demand and really highlight what's going on at the foot and the contact with the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and then progress them to a like a you seen the exogeny style stuff across the chest to a sled, or even an exogeny. They're great if you've got access to one of those, and then progress to the waist through the
Yeah.
6 weeks if they're capable of accelerating well with a waist attachment. Or flip it if you feel like they are struggling with hip extension and you want to try and show them how to. You might go with light resistance around their hip to try and
Mm-hmm.
encourage some hip extension. But I'd probably use that as a semi-frequently. I'd start with the other ones.
Yeah. 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 And with you talked about James Wild's work with the how, I guess the strategy. If you were to go back to rugby and profile the group, and that was actually a question from Lucas Strong. How do you profile your athletes and individualization in a team setting, which is probably the challenge for any speed coach, right? Is that something you look to do, and how would you sort of quantify, I guess, those who sits in what quadrant? What would be
Yeah,
your testing process?
so if we use James Wild's work as a good example of this, just filming a acceleration over 10, and then I think he uses stride frequency and stride length to whether they're bouncers or spinners or bounders and that kind of, I think that's his terminology as well. Once you've got them into the buckets, there'd be part of your coaching might be trying to reshape technique to bring them closer to the center of the quadrant to make sure that that strategy is safe.
Mm-hmm.
The other part might be that's the way you move. Okay, let's make sure that we've targeted interventions away from speed training to make sure that that local tissue that's getting extra stress is capable of handling it without breaking down. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a group that might be more susceptible to calf work, you're going to push them into some more resilience and robustness work for their calves, and then the hamstring group will do something different. And I think that would be how you could you might not individualize your session, but you'll individualize your interventions in run prep and then in the strength program to make sure that they're getting what they need when they go and do the thing that's harder to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
And
how
that would be, yeah. So that to unpack that a bit, I guess for coaches looking to apply this model, it would be, for the spinners, in the prep, you might work on some stride length, for example. Is that so?
yeah.
Work on their weaknesses in a sense,
Yeah.
and then what they'd have more, I guess, risk of potential with the spinners, calf loading, more calf load. So you want stronger calves. I
Yeah.
guess the was it the bounders? Probably a bit more overstriders, potentially a bit more hamstring load.
Yeah, I'd
So
have to
stronger
go
Nordic.
through James's work to really be giving out definitive examples. And I just, if anyone's listening, I think that sounds interesting. He's far smarter than me, so go and check out his stuff. It's really high quality and super practical as well. So I don't want to come out and say anything that's incorrect around his work. So just if you're interested in that, go and check that out, and then you can shoot a question off to me or you afterwards if we can discuss it. But yeah,
Yeah,
James
yeah.
Wilder would be where I'd start, and then you could probably do the same thing with your max speed work. If you've got anyone that's heavily backside dominant, I'd probably be looking at their like range of movement around hip and making sure that they've got adequate hip extension and not super tight anterior hip, and then
Mm-hmm.
adding in lots more integrated trunk movements during run prep. So plate in front, what marching, that kind of stuff. And you might even start throwing aqua bag around at that point as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And with the development side of things, do you feel athletes move the way they do largely to sort of as a top-down sort of dominant strategy in terms of the coordination side of things, or do you think it's a bit more morphological? Like if they're got strength in certain areas, that dictates how they move. Like I guess are you more biased towards, okay, give me this athlete and I'm just going to make them move more efficiently and the rest will take care of itself, or is it, I know there's some capacity areas that are lagging in this area. And I think if we can develop good amount of strength while coaching the athlete, that will go to where you need to go. Where do you where's your bias, do you think?
I would probably, I'll give you an example how I might solve the problem for an athlete, and then we can unpack how that might answer your question. I guess if the classic example you would probably see with let's take the 7 week case study with the footballer that's turned up is if they can't hit that figure four shape at mid stance.
Mhm.
So their swing leg knee is behind their stance leg knee. You've got daylight there. So we want to try and address that. The ways you would address that are through either limb switching speed and then the quality of the ground contact and how long are they over extending through their hip and getting too far out the back so that limb can't cycle through fast enough? Do they sink a lot when they hit the floor?
Mhm.
So they can't bounce and turn their legs over underneath them. And what's their rib pelvis connection like? Is that anterior tilt slowing them down again? Once you try and pick out the pieces of their technique that are slowing them down, and you start to see that gap close, that's where your interventions might be. All right, we're going to look at all three to start with and see where you're weak so we can close that gap. And then if they've got really poor 10-5 scores or yeah, when you do the switching sequences, they just can't get the limb switching speed that you think they would need to run fast. Or can you cue them out of it? Can you ask
Mhm.
them to be a bit taller so that I know it's a classic cue, and it's not one that I love about getting tall. I like to try and picture the athlete bouncing as like a bouncy ball over the hurdles as they go
Mhm.
down, things like that, and then just see what sticks basically. So it might be a bit of cueing and technical changes, or it might be more morphological, like calf capacity, foot capacity, hip range of movement, trunk stiffness, those things we've spoken about already. But you
Yep.
need the key part there is having a landmark in the technique that you can show back to the athlete and say, hey, you did this, you've done these things, or I've asked you to do that, and now we're starting to see this shape. This is the shape I'm looking for. It's a number four. Can you see that? Yes or no? Really clear objective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well answered, mate. That's yeah, it provides good clarity, I guess, on that. With I guess making decisions on the fly when you're managing an athlete maybe in the off season where you're perhaps still learning, how much they can handle from a workload point of view. So this could be coaches going to a new club or a new organisation, but also working with the athlete for the first time in the off season, perhaps. Um, how do you sort of take us into your decision making on in session? When it comes to plyometrics, doing maybe your program that you've prescribed pre-session? What are some of the things you like to see? You might not have access to GPS or any objective data, but just whether
Yeah.
it be body language or subjective feedback from the athlete, or even just how they're looking. Talk us through those sort of subtleties and how that aids you. What you might change, whether you might add more work in because they're just looking like they're a beast, or maybe you think they're on the edge and you pull a bit back. Is that intensity? Is it volume? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll get through that question. There's a lot there. So let's go
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
I'll go individual athlete and then how I might do it with the team. So if I'm working one-on-one with someone, I won't show them the session. We'll just talk about their training experiences. And it's not like a checkbox kind of, have you had any injuries? You can't
Mm.
go straight to that because it's a negative thing. So, oh, tell me about your last 12 months. How do you think you went? What was the best parts? When did you feel most dynamic? When did you feel most explosive? When were you your fastest? Tell me about all the good things you've done. And then,
Mhm.
okay, so when you're not feeling great, how might that present? Oh, okay, well, this, and this. Okay, well, my ideas for today were to try some everything you've probably done before, but we're going to try and shine a little bit of light on how you do it just for you. So marching,
Mhm.
skipping, switching, you might go bounding. Really low dose of everything, but how do you do it? And how can I help you as the individual in this moment, or give you some strategies to help make sure that those exercises that you're going to do for the rest of the season, you're doing them in a way that benefits you. And there would be almost no variation in that for a little while to make sure that the learning is sticking. But you might be working with a gun, right? And then you give them some information, and they do it straight away, and it's stuck. It's done. Okay, well then we're going to progress that in the session, in the moment. It might take them 4 weeks to do that one thing that you've asked them to do. As long as you're really objective and clear with them and yourself on what it is that you're trying to do, what's the change you're trying to make, then they're happy to keep trying. It's when it's grey, and I guess this could be the challenge in team sport where you've got 35 different people who need 35 different things. How do you make everyone feel like they're getting better with speed training? It's framing it up for them that like some of what we're doing will be exactly the same, and it's maintenance. It's maintenance of great foot and ankle qualities. It's maintenance of great switching speed. So we'll always do switches, we'll always do pogos. And then where you might start to individualize it is towards the back end of the session, where you get more creative and innovative and start saying to athletes, hey, when you are one-on-one, when do you feel best? When are you going to go and score? When do you know that it's on? Or what shapes does the defense present to you? And then you can go, all right, well, how about we do some one-on-ones and you guys can figure it out for yourselves. I'm just going to step back. You're professional athletes. I'm not. That part. The big bit there is to get the coaches in. And I know that's probably gets said a lot. I wouldn't use a ball for a long time. So it feels a lot less like the game itself. Just let them explore how to solve one-on-one problems. And then that can begin to be where you individualize with them and iterate across the space of a season. In those top-up parts at the end of a session, you might grab the coach, de-coach, and then work on some footwork with them. So what do you want to see? You show me, you tell me, and I'll make it happen. I don't know if that answers your question. It was a bit of a ramble, but
No, it does definitely. Yeah, it just gives us really good insight into, I guess, like you said, asking insightful questions at the start. That process that you go through with, gaining information. I think that clearly it's quite intentional in terms of the starting off in a positive way. I think we probably can have a tendency sometimes to just go straight to injury history and some of the stuff that athletes probably their eyes aren't going to light up talking about that. But share us some of the moments that that were highlights of the year. Because I guess that for there you're sort of trying to look for success, right? And that's leaving clues on how to double down on those.
Yeah, it's always way more fun working on the stuff you're good at too. So especially if you're trying to build a relationship with someone, and like, speed training is fun. It's speed and agility. That's why I love it so much, because it is the most fun that you can have with the athlete group or the individual you're working with. It's being out on the field and being as close as you can to doing what they do as a job. So show me your weapons. What are you good at? Are you a great accelerator? Are you someone that's really, can, like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck can beat someone in a phone box kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then what makes you so good at those things? Let's reinforce that. And you will work on your other bits as we get through it. But I want you to show me what you're really good at.
And what are the early days when you're working with athletes in the speed development space? What were you doing that you're currently not doing, I guess? What's the evolution been like as a coach?
Yeah.
Maybe we've talked about sort of the art of coaching a fair bit in terms of the questions and that sort of thing, but more, I guess, from a prescription point of view, do you have sort of thresholds on working out, okay, what's a good amount of, if you're working on ankle stiffness, plyometric volume from extensive to intensive? Maybe I'll start with that, and then we can sort of go into more speed drills as well in terms of volumes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the plyometric volumes, we're just looking for adverse reactions within that 24 to 48 hour window post exposure.
Yep.
You don't want to do so much that you like burn the cake, so to speak, because you can't undo that. You're looking for, be conservative, give it 2 days. If they're still in training, you need to watch how they present over that time. If they've got a history of tendon issues, you're going to be even more conservative. And then spend time watching how your session has influenced them and their physiology for the next couple of days. So the biggest change I've made would be to be a lot more conservative and be more, conservative early and then know when to push. Because it's the cumulative effect of these exposures that's going to be the point of difference, right? Consistency is what my definition of high performance sport is. So if we go too much too soon, too aggressive, trying to make a difference and be the expert and show our worth, then I think we can fall foul of making mistakes. So that would be the same rule of thumb for exposure to max speed, exposure to tempo running, exposure to plyometric volume. We're going to have a conservative, detail orientated session. So you know what I'm looking for in the execution of each of these movements, and then we're going to progressively increase either volume or intensity, or we're going to change how complex these movements are. But then no, if we change complexity, the intensity will probably drop because they'll have to learn new things. So how do you account for that in your session? That might be a natural drop in how hard that session is. So where do you place that? And just being more aware of how your session fits in a week, fits in a day, fits over a month. And the cumulative effect of speed training is where it becomes its most powerful, not just this single dose that we're interested in. Would be the biggest change.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. The rib cage pelvis sort of alignment when you're seeing some funky things there, what are your sort of go-tos? Is it a matter of cues and sort of getting touch and letting the athletes know this is what it should feel like, or are you sort of, you've got your drills that you know if the athlete can execute them well, then give it a bit of time and they'll make the change.
So we start in the gym with hip lock work. Hip lock is great for a number of reasons, but it's also been done, it's been taken apart, and there's some crazy things happening out there with it now, but it's a great way to connect rib pelvis connection and get some stiffness through your stance leg. And that's the reason I use it. And there's a whole host of ways that you can teach hip lock or challenge postural demands, but it's the best way for getting rib pelvis connection that I've found. And then we take that feeling and we move it into marching, and you do plate in front marching, or you see stick overhead a lot. That's okay, but I think something that's out in front of your body that can be 1 or 2 kilos, you have to light up here. You can't do it with sloppy technique. And then the secondary benefit is we're all just working front side mechanics. We're just knees up in front, straight off the ground, knees up in front. Once we've done that sequence, we might progress to some skipping. I wouldn't do plate in front switching for a long time. Then go to wickets. Nice and easy, so they can get rhythm and tempo and flow, and it shouldn't be, you're not trying to crap a pineapple. We want to see you relaxed and rhythmic, but no specific mention of rib pelvis alignment as they're doing. You just let them go. You've done all the coaching, you've done all the cueing, all that stuff's happened in an environment where there's lots of control, and you can be one-on-one with the athlete and help them get into good positions. And then when they go and do the thing, you just let them go. You don't need to talk at that point. And you might check back with them. They might even tell you, oh, that felt different. Right, okay, that's good. Do it again. Let's just see that week on week. And then you can keep the tempo and the wickets the same, and then keep adding variation into your run prep. If someone picks something up, change it in the next rep. So there's two distinct schools of thought there on variation. The wickets might stay the same with slight changes in the spacing, but they're going to be there for almost the whole season. The run prep is where you can start to be innovative and creative and explore. You need something that is refinement and maintenance, and something else that's exploring and innovation.
Yeah. Love it. And the I guess if you've gifted a unicorn, an athlete that's got everything that you want in terms of capacity, and it's a matter of sort of, I guess, keeping them available, but also sharpening them up, having them feel good and feel like they're really confident going into the preseason. What with those type of athletes, what does their gym sort of look like from a strength point of view? Are you one for, if you are chasing maybe perhaps a bit of max velocity development, do you pull back a little bit on the gym, and how does that change if for someone it's like, I really want to get better at acceleration, I'm happy with my max speed, what does that mean for the gym? Talk us, I guess, that relationship between gym and speed. How does that change?
Yes, if someone is fast and they can run fast regularly, again, going back to what I said before, like what's the effect of them running fast on them the day after and the day after that? It's a really specific high intensity stimulus. In my mind, it's the apex physical quality, and all of the roads point towards, can they run fast regularly, confidently? If you're doing that, then your program's probably in a good place. And if an athlete came to me that was a unicorn and said, "Oh, I'm really fast," my mind springs to Reece Walsh, right? He's someone that of that unicorn status in the media right now. If he came to me and said, I want to work on this, I'd go back and say, okay, well, what's made you want to work on that specific thing? Tell me more. Again, we're coming back to that questions. Okay, because you're really good at all these other things, and you're really like the best at all these other things. So what do you want to work on that? It might be to become the more complete athlete, and then we'd probably get into a conversation with the rest of the team around if we do chase acceleration. Might not be it, but we're going to go on this road. If we do chase acceleration with Reece, what are the things we're going to have to look at in the rest of his program that might be things we might need to address in his training volume or session modification, because he's going to be sore. There'll be moments that he might be at higher risk of other things because of we're chasing this adaptation in the gym, which requires high mechanical load through big ranges of movement.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do there with him? And when you've got someone of that caliber, I love this saying, everyone's treated fairly, but everyone's treated differently.
Yeah,
so They'll all get fair treatment, but Reece Walsh, you get more time. We're going to sit and have an hour-long meeting about strength program and how it's going to influence your week, your month. And just get into the weeds with the rest of the team, bring the medicals in, bring the coaches in. So like, this is what he wants to work on. This is what we've had a discussion about. This is what I've said. What do we think is the best way to go forwards? And then probably bring Reece in on that as well. And it's like, your whole week's affected by this, mate. So what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because they might have had a brain fart in the shower. But my acceleration's rubbish. I felt slow yesterday, and they come and tell you. So well, actually,
dive a bit deeper in it.
Yeah. You're done. You're really, really good at all this other stuff. Like so good at it. Just stay really, really good at that.
What about the fast twitch, speed unicorns, but perhaps that their repeatability is a bit of a downfall. Aerobically is something that probably doesn't work quite favorably with their setup, I guess. How do you get the fast guys fit? What's sort of your approach there? For rugby, maybe a winger that is super fast, but lacks a bit of the repeat fitness side of things.
Yeah, if you're not fit, you can't compete, can you? It doesn't matter how quick you are, really. And you can either go to some more extensive methods like tempo running and try and build them up there to, it depends what you feel like the capacity is that's holding them back. That repeatability, do they need more peripheral work? Is it something that they get, they do repeat high intensity efforts and they just blow up, but they give them a bit of a break and they can do it again? Or is it more of that, 6-7 minute efforts? If we're talking about rugby league here, if they're in cycles and going set per set, do they just need more aerobic capacity? And then can we do that off feet that might not hinder their twitchiness? Can we find other ways to do it? Is it a more metabolic stress, that repeat effort on and off the ground? I'll start to investigate those other avenues with that player, but we're trying to keep them fast. Tempo running might be a good way to do it. I know Sevens programs use a lot of tempo running, and they're pretty fit and fast, so you can start to lean into those other methods as well. But yeah, that's probably where I would go without the player.
Yeah. So for the athletes listening in, what would be like a classic tempo session, I guess, for the footballers tuning in that off season period they're looking to work on this side of things? What would be some of your sort of go-to sessions?
Yeah, you could do 75 meters, 15 seconds. That's like 5 meters per second. It's pretty slow.
Yep.
And then look to shorten the duration of those reps, but keep the length the same. So you might progress that to like a 12-second effort or something like that. The quality, the priority with tempo running is like high quality running with like there's little amounts of inter-rep fatigue. So you might rest for 30 seconds between reps. So your work to rest is extended. If you wanted more of a conditioning effect, I'd go to just, 52 meters, 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off, that kind of work. 55 meters. I've had lads get up to 60 with that kind of work. And they're doing it for multiple reps, a set of 12, a 4-minute block of MAS work. That's where I would probably lean into. For your fast pace, not great with the anaerobic speed reserve stuff, but I'd probably have a little look at that as well, right? If you got someone who's super twitchy with a really low MAS score.
Yeah. But a big
Space.
math
Where's the
possibly.
room for, yeah, where's the room for growth in there? What can we do to target that? So you get your MAS score, get your max speed score. What's your anaerobic speed reserve? Is
Yeah.
it
And the feeling it, I don't want to shoot him there, but if you gave them sort of 4 minute runs and some of the classic fartlek sort of blocks that footballers tend to do, 20-minute steady state efforts, things like that, that might beat them up a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, like, so you're the coach with there in front of them. What do you think is the change you're trying to make? Like, use your intuition there and follow what you see. Don't just go with what everyone else has done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. What about standards? Are you big on sort of objective markers to work out, does this athlete have the capacity in terms of drop jump, RSI, counter movement jump? You mentioned knee ISO, but you also use traditional strength stuff, your back squat, Bulgarian. Are there any of these type of areas that you think, okay, it'd be nice to have these in place, maybe for your younger athletes as well that are developing in nature, where you're chasing some strength gains?
Yeah, I think everyone should be able to do a pull up. That's one thing, regardless
Yep.
of how heavy you are. And if you like to, you should be able to do heaps of them. You can go to strength markers around, squat scores being 1 point, back squat, full range of movement, 1.5 times body weight as a pretty solid. That's where you need to be strong enough to do the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we're asking you to do.
Mm-hmm.
With the ISO profiling, I'd probably leave that for your professional athletes, and Alex Natera has got great information out there on benchmarking, profiling differences for men and women in different sports. And I just started to cherry pick information. All this work's been done by people out there that are way more intelligent than me. It's just pulling it all together into a system that you think fits what you see in front of you with the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm back in a developing level, let's say like academy level rugby league team, and they're 20 to 21 years old when they leave the program, there's no reason why those athletes shouldn't be as strong or stronger than the NRL group,
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't had the rigors of professional life, and they're much younger, and you can be really aggressive with the programming at that level. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be the strongest players in the club, is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
So your benchmarks are great to say that's where we need you to be, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be way up there with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that'd probably be where I have most of my profile. And I would do, yeah, joint specific ISO profiling at the start of preseason to get baselines if we ever need them for rehab. Some more general strength testing just to see where everyone's at. Jump testing, I think male professional sportsmen should be at 40 centimeters as a minimum. Females should be at 30, and that's regardless of sport, and that's regardless of contraction time or strategy. RSI, yeah, the 2.5 minimum, really, I think. That's
Mm-hmm.
I'd be considered as like, if you haven't got that, then the rest of it can't happen.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be a few just off the top of my head that I'm thinking that's where we'd want to profile people at the start of the year. If we needed someone to fall back on, or where we might just attack some low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. 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 And I guess, yeah, final one in terms of the transfer. You mentioned using coaches and involving coaches. So they've developed, you've got the athlete, done a really good off season with them. Their capacity is in a great spot. That, or efficiency first, the technique, then the capacity. Now we're looking, you're managing them over the preseason. You're looking to engage the coaches from a transfer point of view, specificity. You mentioned something around getting players' insight. Is that something that you sort of go to as well with some of the? But is that change between senior to a rookie, or doesn't matter the level? You get their perspective and engage them with the coaches. How does that look like with session planning
Yeah.
for game
So
speed? Yeah.
yeah, even if they're a rookie, even if they're a 15-year-old, you still ask them this idea of
Mm-hmm.
co-design. I think when people have this idea, it's like 50-50. It can be 90-10,
Mm-hmm.
but that 10, it was really important. So I'm always going to
Mm-hmm.
ask the athlete, if we're trying to work on something that has an opportunity to influence what they do on the field, which is hopefully what you're doing, right? Yeah, I think bringing the coaches in on that they're the expert there, So you bounce your ideas around the table with them, using an analyst at the club as well, because they might be able to communicate the style of play or what they see with an athlete in a way that the coaches can't, which is a different opinion. And then you've got three information sources that can help you put the same drill or strategy or environment in front of an athlete, but the way you describe it is different. And that different description means that the drill is then different. That's a part of that session design, is what you say. So shaping your message to fit what that athlete might want to hear or might think is important is a critical part of that process. But I think the big bit to take away from that is no matter who you're working with, this idea of co-design or bringing athletes in, it's not 50-50 every time you talk to someone. It can be 90-10, or and that can be either way. If someone is super tuned into what they need as an athlete, or they're a veteran, they might be able to tell you, I've done this with this club and I hated it, or I loved this. I felt best when I was playing here. We were doing these kind of things. Okay, that's the program we're going to start you with. I think for right now, you need this. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said, mate. That's awesome. Yeah, love it, love it. Anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted before the last sort of wrap it up questions?
No, I really enjoyed that, mate. It was a good chat. Plenty in there. Plenty in there. I think yeah, I do definitely use benchmarks, and there's some key objective stuff in there. It's just with the speed and agility coaching and the on-field stuff, the players and the coaches know a lot more than perhaps we give them credit.
Yep, yep.
The idea of co-design and bringing people into that doesn't mean you sacrifice up all of your IP and your coaching space for things that other people want to do. You're just gathering all the information you need to make that part of your week, your session, the most effective and impactful it can be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 100%. You're less to get things missed, right? If you're getting all these different perspectives, and no doubt it can challenge and grow your own process and question why you do things. But also from the athlete's perspective, certainly the modern day athlete, they want to feel heard and engaged with decision making. Like I said, so I think it can get thrown around a little bit. Like the rookies need to earn the right before they get a say. But I think that 90-10 probably is a good place to start, rather than just not even asking the question. You probably some you won't get much out of them. Doesn't mean that you're going with everything, but you're still filtering it in.
Yeah, that's it, right? And even if they're a rookie at a pro club, they're still better than heaps of people out there. Like they know a lot more about the sport than a lot of the other people playing it. So they could probably still give you something. And even if they can't, at least you've given them the chance to say, here's what I'm thinking of doing. What do you reckon?
And they may not have really thought about it because no one's asked them before.
Yeah. 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 You might surprise yourself with something that comes up.
Yeah. Yeah, love it. That's a great way to wrap it up. These are still on the professional sense, but not so much on the topic, mate. But work life, pet peeves, anything that sort of fires you up?
Oh,
can be industry wide or
whinging. I know I come from the UK as well, so that's probably going against my what is it, the whinge and pom narrative. But we have so little to complain about, right? I think it's trying to get people away from that. And so if we can start with positive interactions and being consistent with that, I think it's laziness and whinging are things that really don't sit well with me. Work and
100%. No, agreed. And a day off, mate. What's your favorite way to spend a day off?
Oh, at the moment I'm surfing pretty much daily. Since working with surfing, I thought I should probably have a crack at this myself. Not to be any good, but just to figure it out, right? And I think, how often do we learn things as adults and suck at stuff? It's really rare that we fail nowadays. So it's been a great experiment for me to feel what it's like to learn things again and have 8-year-olds who are way better at this sport than I am. It's humbling, that's for sure. So it's been great for that, and meant that I've got to learn a new skill and be outside for an hour a day. So it's been a good experience. So I'll stick with that for a little while.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's great effort, mate. What time are you getting up to? Is that an early morning session that you tend to do? Is that the best time, sunrise? Or is that hard work when you're back?
Don't mind I just find the time basically. Even if it's rubbish, I'll go out because just
get wet as they say.
I'm in the water, get runs on the board. Yeah, and I guess the other way to spend a day off is with my family, right? She's got a newborn, so trying to manage being dad and be the best coach I can and get some time for me in the waters. What my life looks like on repeat, which I'm pretty happy with actually. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice one. What about? Do you have one opinion that sort of goes against mainstream thinking, or challenges popular consensus?
yeah, I do. I've already got a couple. I don't want to throw myself under the bus.
Go
Uh,
for it.
um, I think we probably don't, Matt, this is it, right? We don't spend enough time as strength conditioning coaches actually becoming great coaches. We are so good with information, incredible, like data
Mm,
science, dashboards, the capability of AI to help us code things and bring all this information live. It's incredible. Don't get me wrong. It's really important. I'm not downplaying it, but I reckon that if you had 100 chips, you'd have 90 on that side. There'd be 10 on the coaching, and that for me
mm,
just doesn't sit super well. Like it's a part of the key part of our role is being a great coach, and I hope that's what come across in this pod is like let's just balance that up a little bit and spend more time focusing on our craft as coaches as well as the information. Um, not going so heavy down this data science and information route. So that would that would be my 2 pence in that. Oh,
sorry, mate, just cut out a little bit, but
oh,
it
good.
came through.
Oh.
Yeah, it came through. What about we're midway through of October for 2025? What are you most excited about for 2026, mate?
Yeah, what am I most excited about for 2026? We've got Winter Olympics coming up, so I've got a number of athletes heading over to Milan Cortina to go and compete over there. I haven't really spoken about winter sports much on this one, but it's a big part of my role as well. So watching the crew that goes over to compete go and put their best performances out there and give what they've done a lot of hard work, and it's a hard sport to be a part of, being an Australian and being a winter sport athlete. So for
Mm,
anyone that listens, get around that event. It's an incredible spectacle, and yeah, so the Winter Olympics is number one. The tour kicks off again at Bells Beach down in Victoria, so I'm
oh,
really
yeah.
keen to go down, see Molly do her thing, the domestic leg before she heads off overseas, and then being dad, figuring out what it's like
Yeah,
to be a father is I'm
yeah,
stoked
how
for that.
good.
Anyway, 26. So yeah, first child. They're under 3 weeks old right now. So I imagine I'll be spending 2026 figuring out what it means to be dad as well. So they're three things that I'm pretty revved up about.
Yeah, yeah, plenty to be excited for, mate. Big year. That's
Yeah.
fantastic, both professionally and personally. Well, thank you heaps, mate, for coming on. I know it's been over 60 minutes of your time. Really appreciate you while you're thick in dad life, 3 weeks in. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your insights, mate, in how you go about your craft. I think it's been a refreshing message, for myself selfishly, in the off season where I'm a speed coach at the moment, but also like you said, the strength and conditioning. I think we need to spend a lot of time on the art side of things, the communication and asking better questions. So really appreciate your message and jumping on, mate. For those that want to follow up and connect, and perhaps I know you do mentorships and that sort of thing. Give us a bit of a plug. But where's the best place to connect, mate?
Yeah, just probably hit me up through Instagram. It's at Spenny underscore underscore. Find me on there, and then the mentorship's about to kick off. So unless you contact me in the next 2 days, then you missed the boat on that one. But always
Yeah,
happy to talk through things, coaching and speed, and just have a yarn with people about this kind of stuff. As you can probably tell, pretty passionate about it. So happy to help people or share insight wherever I can. So contact me through there, and then we can get a convo going if that's what you're interested in.
perfect. Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, but for those listening in the car, perhaps driving to work, I'll add Spencer's Instagram handle in the show notes, so you'll be able to connect with him by there and follow up with any questions, or perhaps asking questions around the next mentorship. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you tuned in at the end there, make sure to wind it back to the start on the YouTube episode that's released on our podcast in the next few weeks. And we have Josh Ruddy, who's a sports science at Essendon Footy Club. That's our next one, which is not for a little while. It'll be 11 a.m. Australian Standard Time on the 19th of November. So I look forward to seeing you guys then.